free to put on your cameras and we are being live streamed now. Hi Delna, good to see you. Delna is the only person in this group I've attempted to teach before. So Delna, do not let out my secrets.
You have taught me before as well as to do.
Not discussing that. Okay. I think we're good to start now. So okay. I'm just going to continue ranting as I have been. We are all good with speaking English during this session because that's mainly what I'll be speaking in. Yes? We can do thumbs up on the thingy if that's needed. Yes. Hi. Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Hina. I live and work in Pune, India currently. I have, and my background is in theatre making, storytelling, and in education. Currently, I identify as a transmedia storyteller, which has nothing to do with the T in the LGBTQI. Transmedia basically means storytelling across mediums, so that a person who wants to engage with the story has multiple entry points and has multiple spaces that they can come and play with the story in. I also work with gaming and storytelling in gaming. And hopefully that means I can talk about what I'm going to talk to you about. Also for my queer upbringing, for the purpose of this workshop, I will use ace and queer interchangeably because I think it's I don't know what it is. We'll figure it out. But I just think it's easier for him, for me right now to do that. I am asexual, pan-romantic, and polyamorous. So a lot of that will reflect with the work that I share. There is a tendency that I will lapse into coarse language simply because I'm too nervous to carry on sounding formal. So that's your trigger warning. I will do my best to be self-aware, but you never know. Again, for everyone who's just joined, I would really enjoy it if you all put on your cameras and I can see the looks of horror on your face when I say certain things. So that'll be fun. Okay, all right then, let's get started. I am sharing the screen. Yes, just confirming we can all see this. Hi, we can all see this?
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah, I need like verbal confirmation. Yes. Okay. Great. So I have explained what this person called Hina Siddiqui is for today. And the workshop is called Acing the Plot or Ace the Plot, because that sounded cool. But like I said, we'll be talking about queer spaces and queer writing and characters in general. And essentially what this presentation and this session will cover. Questions and provocations, which is generally something that I'm supposed to be good at. And we're going to ask these questions and perhaps discuss the answers. And if we don't feel comfortable or safe discussing the answers in a public forum, I will share with you my answers. And that is perhaps a place for you to start off with, right? I'm assuming that people who are joining this workshop have an interest in writing. And so that's where we're going to start. Yes?
Yes.
You all need to give me some kind of verbalization. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yes.
Yes, awesome. Great. Okay. So something that we're going to do, this is something that stretches for me over days and weeks, right? But for me, a story always starts with the physical act of writing, whether it's typing on a board or writing in a notebook. Okay. There is a vague idea, whether it's a scene, whether it's a location, it's a person, there is usually a vague idea that pushes you to write about it, right? And right now what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to put us on a timer, right? And of course time is a social construct, so the timer, might change based on the mood of the room. but I'm going to put us in a timer for 2 minutes. And all of us have writing material close to us, right?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
No? Yes, great. So for the next 2 minutes, 120 seconds, you are going to write without stopping. Okay, so this is a thing, a practice called auto writing, and you're just going to write. If you end up writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's fine. If you end up writing blah 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 for the next 2 minutes, that's fine, right? A crazy way of doing this would be to also type out in the chat section and press enter when I say stop. If you want to share the writing that you're working on, right? But we are not going to stop writing from when I say start to when I say stop. That's cool. Verbal confirmation, people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Yeah. So what are we going to do right now? We're going to
Right, for 120 seconds.
write for 120 seconds. Okay. All right.
We just write anything. Sorry, I'm just think we don't write. What do we write? Sorry,
You just write. You just write. I don't care.
Okay.
You just write. Ready? Start.
Hina, there is someone who joined us. So
Shrishti, just hang on. Wait till the end of this exercise. 1 minute to go. I'm adding a bonus 30 seconds, so there's 1 minute to go. All right, stop. Stop. Just stop. Stop. Look up. Look at me. Look at me. All right. Yes, hands up. Yes, show me that your hands are not writing anymore. Okay. Hi, for everyone who's just joined at the end of this exercise, I invite you to keep your screens on so that we can interact and I can basically know that I'm talking to humans, which I need to know. Hi, hello, thank you. What we did just now was a 2.5 minute auto writing session, which basically means no thought, just write, right? And right now, I just want if 2 people could volunteer. I don't want to know the content that you wrote, right? That's for a later discussion. I want to know what you felt having to write for these 2.5 minutes as a compulsion. right? So if we could just share what we felt or what was the urge, that will be great. Yes, Mridula. And anyone, so we have Mridula and one more person so that, we can distribute. Okay, Divya. See, this is why you have screens on so that when you raise your hand, I can see it quickly. Yes, Mridula, why don't you go? And then
Yeah, I feel like I should have done this like, I don't know, like 4 weeks ago or something, because I've ended up writing like a bit on this idea that I've had for that much time. And I'm like, oh, I'll write it later. It's fine. And then I didn't. But now I did.
Yay. Right. Divya?
So I think I was able to separate, when we think about writing, we're very concerned about what to write, right? But this time what I did was I just let things flow, and things that I might have said aloud to, let's say, somebody who's sitting next to me, I just wrote instead. So there was a sense of quietude, that I didn't have to think aloud. I could think on paper. And that's something I don't do very easily. It's very hard for me to do that. So thank you. Got me to do that.
So just to quickly, the won't say learning, but the point of this exercise or the point of writing, see, you're not a writer because you're good at writing. You are a writer because you have something to say. You have something to write about. You have a story to tell, right? And this is as relevant to someone writing a thesis, to someone writing a non-fiction article or a blog, and as it is to someone writing fiction, right? So a lot of us, first, the impulse stops with like, oh, I can't write, so I'm not going to write. But it's not about that, right? Okay, so I'm going to move back to my presentation because I don't know what to do next. Right. So what you have done is you have sat down and done the first impulse. And what I'm going to encourage you to continue doing is to write out the rest of this impulse once you're done with this workshop or whenever you have the time, right? Like I said, sometimes it's a paragraph or a sentence. Mine, the last big one, went on to 2 notebooks, like literally 2 full notebooks got covered and a tiny one, which I don't count, right? So this can go on for a while or it could stop quickly. Don't worry about that. Okay. Now the next big question, because we are doing this at PanACEa, we are doing this during World AIDS Awareness Week. And this next question, right? You can read what I have written. This is, again, it's going to be answered for you. So for the sake of that, be honest. You don't need to justify this to me or to anyone else who asks you, but you need to answer it honestly for yourself. Right? This is your question. I'm going to give you a few seconds, maybe like a minute to think about this.
Sorry, this bottom of the screen is a bit blocked, I think.
Oh, okay, 1 second. I will try. Oh, why is it doing that?
Might be something.
Yes, is it visible now?
No, I think it's trying to hide the controls.
Yeah, is it visible now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Great.
you.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, why is this happening? Right. So again, this is something that you can think about more on your own. But right now, is there someone who wants to perhaps share their answer to this question? One person who is not Mridula or Divya.
Sneha wants to.
I cannot see Sneha.
Go
Yes,
ahead, Sneha.
Sneha, go ahead.
Because most of the times when I read books, I do not see myself in them. Very rarely do I get to see myself or even feel that, oh, there is some character close to who I am. So for that reason alone, I want to write something based on queer characters and also plots based on that, because some of the dynamics are not even there, and that is there in my head, but it is not there in the paper or in the screen or on the screen.
Fair enough. I think this is of course a quote by a author. I don't know the writing, and the color is great to read right now, but this is a summary of my answer, which is very similar. I think the personal space that we want to create from, and I think again something that Rebecca on the first day in the session about her play touched upon, that no one's going to create the work that we want to see, so we have to create it ourselves. And that is the joy and the tragedy of it, right? The joy is that, of course, is the act of creation, is the act of ruling something or creating the rules of a space that you create. But there's also the tragedy that we have to keep doing the hard work. We have to, we can't just flick open a book or a channel and say, oh, okay, it's our story, right? And I think the reason I'm also bringing up this point is that there is a lot of pressure on queer writing and queer authors to be authentic to a common narrative of the queer world, right? Like queer writers face the most criticism for not being as queer as they're supposed to be, right? Where certain things that I'm a trans person, I did not relate to the trans character you spoke about, so hence you are wrong, right? That is also the tragedy of being the minority, because one expects the minority to have a uniform conversation, but it doesn't. We are all human. We all have our own stories, right? And to respect that in the sense of, this is the story that I am writing and this is why I'm writing it. Just have that clarity in your head helps you continue when this comes your way, right? So define this for yourself and do this, right? Like if we're going stepwise, do this after you've covered your impulse. See, the impulse is something instinctive. It's something that needs to be addressed first. Engaging with the impulse will also tell you whether you have the stamina or the will to continue. Sometimes just engaging the impulse scratches your itch and you're done, right? You've expressed it in that impulsive moment and you are done. You're done with the story. You're done with the character. You've taken it out of your system, right? But then answering this question needs you to know why you want, what you want to continue forward with, right? Okay. So whatever your answer to this question is, okay, we are going to go to the next space because, like I said, we're talking about queer plots, we're talking about queer characters. And oh God, why is this? Another question that needs to be answered in parallel, or just right after the question before that, is how are you interacting with queer culture in your day-to-day life? Okay, so again, I'm going to give you 1 minute, and again, someone else is just going to share their answer at the end of this question, so be prepared. And that someone cannot be Divya, Mridula, or Sneha. I'm being one of those teachers, no? How are you interacting with queer culture in your day-to-day life? Actually, I realized this might not be a one-person answer. This should be a discussion we do across the group. So let's do that. But let's think about this. You'll have 1 minute. Right, so let's just come back into this virtual space. I will try once more to encourage everyone to put on their videos. So the question is, what queer culture? How are you interacting with queer culture in your day-to-day life? And yeah, whoever wants to answer it.
I feel like I barely get to interact with queer culture, given to be very honest, because I think somewhere in this conversation earlier we were talking about how some of us are not queer enough for typical queer community, if I can even say that. And sometimes I feel like I don't get access to that culture because of this reason. And in my mind, also maybe because I'm a millennial, and because I didn't really have an opportunity to be as queer as I am when I was younger. I see a lot of people my age being that kind of queer now. Like I see a lot of teenage-ness in a lot of us, which kind of makes it hard for me to really even understand what is queer culture. Is it just that? Is it the whole sharing emojis and heart emoticons all the time? Because that's what I've experienced and I love it, absolutely love it. But is there more to it? Because I sometimes don't identify as that person. And then they say, oh, you're just a very old person. And I'm like, I am, but can I also be queer? So
relate 110%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
So anyone else wants to jump in on this conversation? Because otherwise it becomes too much of me speaking. Shruti, you put your camera on. Oh, Shruti ran away. Damn it. Yes, Shruti, you want to say something?
I just joined the meeting and I am at my workplace, so I don't think so I'll be appropriate for
Fair enough. I get it. You might want to mute it. We can hear your meeting in the background. Okay. Anyone else wants to talk about how they interact or are unable to interact with queer culture?
The emoji stuff from like literally what I've written down is the internet memes Twitter. And like part of the reason that I like came to this conference is that like real people who are also queer like so
are you sure they're real?
Oh God, I hope. Like I feel like because of our society and like our culture and where we are situated, a lot of interaction with queer culture is online. Like unless you're in the US, I guess, but like it's yeah, it reminded me of the same thing. Like even though I am young and like Gen Z and whatever, like I also feel like, oh, this is a really real,
okay.
Like
okay, so here's the thing, and I was hoping we'd get to address this in a larger way. I think especially within the Asian context, because for us queer culture is American, it's white, right? Because that's how we've consumed it. We're sitting in this online room in a company run by Americans. Zoom is run by an American, I'm guessing, speaking a language that is not ours. Yeah, but we all speak it and love it and it's our language. And we all assume, and queer, the word itself, asexual, queer, all these terminologies come to us from a white space, right? And hence our understanding of queerness and of queer culture also comes from there, right? And I want to basically highlight that, one, if you are queer, you are part of queer culture. Okay, unless you don't interact with yourself, and we'll get into that depth, you interact with queer culture, right? Queer culture does not need to be a homogeneous whole. It could be as simple as watching RuPaul's Drag Race. Okay, it could be as simple as questioning why, like my very good friend sister recently had a baby. Okay, and I didn't even question this publicly. For me, it was like, the very first thing that was announced is it's a boy, right? Just our own understanding of why that was done on the first day, before it was announced that the child is healthy and the mother is fine, it was announced that it's a boy, right? Understanding that this is a question that doesn't occur within our space, perhaps, is queer culture, right? It does not need to be pride parades. It does not need to be song and dance and party and emoji. I'm not saying it's not that. It is that also, right? But to be able to write the queer space that you want to write about, you need to be living in that queer space. How you live in it is how you'll write it, right? And there is no wrong way of doing either. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Have I gone off on a trip? Please pull me back, Sneha.
I also think this is also queer culture. This very specific queer way of talking, which I'm hard relating with, by the way. This is also this is also queer culture, okay? So this, because I do that, I become highly self-aware in my rants, and I'm like, oh, am I doing that thing again? And I see that with you, and I'm like, is this also queer culture? But
it is, right? Like my simple thing is, if you're doing it and you're queer, it's queer culture.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So that's the thing. We very often, the hurdle becomes that, oh, we don't know enough about something to write about it. We don't live within queer culture. We don't get to do San Francisco feather dancing pride parades. Hence, we are not queer. Right? Fuck that shit. This is our way of being queer, and it's not easy to be whatever that is. But we define it, and it's going to that's what this whole conference is about, right? Okay, it's this whole idea that there is an Asian asexuality that is so hidden from within the large conversation, right? Okay, like again, I keep referring to Rebecca's session because that was the one session I was interacting on, but it was also this, like a lot of the stuff that came in her play. She did a play on asexuality, for those of you who missed that. And that play, a large part of the discourse was Western discourse, right? This belief that 1% of the population is asexual, this belief that there's something wrong with us. I will not. The lack of vocabulary, like I got stuck that day talking about anime and not knowing how to describe the sense of having feelings for someone that are not romantic, not sexual. So I kept calling it thingy, right? But that's what it is. The very fact that we talk about love and romance in a different way is queer culture. And I think the power is in acknowledging that and now using it. That's why we are writers. We use everything. Right? That's why we have the power. Haha. That is a great place to start, Shruti. Not knowing something is, and being aware of not knowing it is a great place to start. right? And that's where your character can start. That's where your plot can start. That's where your world can start. Cool. So I'm going to go back to my presentation. Okay, so we've answered this and perhaps figured out a few ways to go forward. Oh wait, how do I make this full screen? Wasn't this full screen? Ha ha. And video. Okay, so I can't see the video if I'm doing full screen. Okay. Now we're going to get into actual writing tools. Okay. And I will share this PPT with you. So this can be sent out. Sneha, this can be sent out to the people who attended, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
please drop in your emails and we'll send it out to you.
Yes. All right. So these are some ways in which you, so for me, planning happens away from the keyboard. But then but when I wrote this, I made this on Canva, and then I realized a lot of my planning happens on Canva. So like back to the keyboard, but the idea that it happens without words, it happens without typing. You don't build your story by writing your story, you build your story by using tools. All right, this is just a quick little insert before we go to the next point. At any point, if there are questions or if you feel like yelling at me about something you disagree with, please do so. I can't see the chat box, so you will have to make some noise. Okay, so we will come back to this, I think, because right now I'm having trouble navigating this. Okay. So usually when you're talking about writing as a planning technical perspective, there are three aspects to it, right? One is your world, right? Second is your characters, and third is your plot. Okay. I'm not going to talk so much about plot, though the workshop is called Acing the Plot, like false advertising. So we're going to talk about characters and we're going to talk about world building. Okay. Now, world building is generally a term associated with high fantasy writers, right? High fantasy, like our ace guru, J.R.R. Tolkien. You know that like 90% of the characters in Lord of the Rings were ace, right? Canonically ace and arrow. Do you know this? No. There are lines that say that they're not interested in love or they don't look at it this way. So it's canonically they're ace and arrow. Okay. So great. And of course, world building is there, but anything that you're writing has to have a world that goes with it. Okay. It doesn't matter whether it's a real space or it's a space you build in your head. In the space of your fiction, you build a world, right? And the PPT has the tools listed out and you can read it. But essentially what I start with is I identify 3 distinct locations in this world. Okay. And then I build a image of them. Okay. Now you can do this making mood boards, and I will share some of the mood boards I have made on Canva, which is an excellent tool, which is now available for 450 rupees a month. And or you could do this by building a scene. Like one of the most thank you for joining. I'm talking about world building. Okay. And again, if anything I say doesn't make sense or you need me to repeat, just interrupt and ask me to. Yes. So 3 locations. Okay. Either they are physical locations, so you have an image of the location and you know what are the exits, entries, what's the mood of the space, right? Very often for the mood of the space, what I do is I create a word grid, right? So when writing, okay, just for the record, for work purposes, I write a lot of romance stories. Yeah, ironic, I know. Haha. But so one of the locations that are very common in romance stories is a cafe, right? And cafes have very smooth. Sometimes you have a breakup scene in a cafe. Sometimes you have a first date in a cafe. Sometimes you have a meet cute in a cafe. I'm going on romance tropes. Neha wants to hit me. But still, the point being, each of these has a mood to it. So you've locked down on cafe, now lock down on the mood. And the mood can again be a series of words, can be a series of images, can be a series of colors, can be a series of emotions, all of these things. All right. And you have to do this for 3 locations in your world. Right? Okay. So for example, again, ask me questions because I'm going back into non-visual zone. I'm going to show you the mood board I created for a location. Aha. Aha. Right. Okay. Can you all see this?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to try very hard to come back to video. Okay. Show video panel. Yay. Okay. This is, does anyone want to take a guess about what kind of world this would be?
Fantasy.
Yes, I was going to say that only. Boy, I was going to say fantasy, to be honest. Yeah. But this is mind blowing. I am blown away.
So I'll just tell you the process of arriving at this, and I'll tell you what this is as well. This is not fantasy, thank you very much. It is science fiction, which is adjacent to fantasy. Okay, so I'm currently working on a trans media story, which has 2 settings, two big locations. One is Japan and one is the Middle East, right? And the story itself is set in 2100. So it's 100 years from now, 2115. So it's 100 years from now. And a lot of this artwork is from so this is the Arabian part of it. I hope that is obvious. And a lot of this artwork is from artists who work with the concept of Arabian futurism. Okay, like futurism basically is a thing. It's a study of how the future will shape out, right? And almost every region of the world and almost every culture has a futurism. So there is also queer futurism, which we are going to come to. But this is Arabian futurism. Okay, like if you notice this, I don't think you can see it as clearly, but this is a moment of gully cricket that the characters here are playing, and then you have the spaceships and the high towers on top. And this is by a Pakistani artist, right? And so that's the idea that once you know what mood or theme you're going for, you can pull imagery or stuff that exists already that deals with this, right? And create your mood board so that when you're talking about the location, like, is there again, this is me testing whether my own theories work. Is there a mood you get when you look at this? Is there a word for that mood? You want to just say it?
Grandiose.
Okay, yes.
It's like a bird's eye view, like most of the images, except for one which is more like a human view.
So again, we're not doing descriptive words for the thing. This is also writing skill. A mood, which has to be an emotive word.
But I'm thinking of time in an emotive way, like take me there kind of way. And because you said futurism, maybe that's why. But it's about being in these different times. Like, for example, being one person, but living these different timelines. That's what I'm feeling right now. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Sure, all of that. But for me, no, y'all are right. I mean, this validates my own interpretation of my theories, because the story is set from a so when you say bird's eye view, Sneha, this is a spy's view, right? When you say grandiose, this is a royal story, right? When you speak of the sense of time, there is someone who's drifting through these. So yay! But the point being, no, this shouldn't be about me. The point being that your intention is to create something like this for yourself. See, because the workshop is happening, I'm showing this. But when you're pitching your story to someone also, this is part of my pitch, right? So it has to create that sense. So it's two purposes. Does that make sense to you guys? Someone say yes.
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 Thank you. Okay, so the intention of creating that mood board for your space is this. So this is my generic mood board for the world. I don't have I actually have made it, but I haven't put it in this presentation. The specific locations. Now, so this is the world. Now within this, find 3 locations. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. All right then.
That actually, sorry, can you repeat that? I did not get.
So we were talking about world building. Okay. And what I said is your world, there are a few things you understand about the mood and the intention of your world, right? So you create one mood board, which is for your world. So my story, for example, this story, it's set in Arabia, which is 100 years in the future. So this is my world. And within that, you pick imagery that fits your themes and fits your mood. Right? Yeah. And now the next step to this would be coming down to 3 specific locations. Right? Like, and I gave the example of the cafe. Like in romance stories, the 3 locations are usually the main character's bedroom, the cafe, and I don't know, the love interest's bedroom. Okay. So these are 3 locations, but each of these, like if your love interest is a vampire, the bedroom will be very different from the bedroom of a human next door. Right. So that's what I'm saying in terms of mood. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay then. Yay. Yes. See, now I'm getting confirmations. Now people are getting me. Okay, go to the next slide, child. Okay, now we come to the wait, are there any questions so far? Any questions, any challenges, any she's talking rubbish, tell her to keep quiet.
Does a mood board have to be like literally visual, because I can't do the whole art thing and like so, all my writing is text, all of it, like
but no, so I'm going to encourage you. I'm also like that. I'm going to encourage you, which is why I said the Canva membership for 450 rupees. Okay, try it for 1 month. Draw these images out, because what this process of drawing the imagery out also does is it helps you identify those who are working on similar themes. Like right now, I did not know of Pakistani person talking about futuristic Pakistan. But futuristic Pakistan is really relevant to what I'm writing. So now I can start, I can follow their work, I can start a conversation. And that has increased the querying of my space. Right? Like a lot of, so queer futurism, like I said, is a thing. And a lot of queer futuristic artists are actually Muslim. Like I didn't know this. Like the 2 biggest ones I'm following are Muslim. They're of course based in USA. One of them is Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's grandson. But okay. Right? The point being you become aware, your cultural awareness increases, which takes us back to the how are you engaging with the culture you're trying to represent. Right? For me, it's queer futurism, but for you, it could be a simple story set, not you particularly, but for someone, it could be a simple story set in that world. But the minute you're pulling out visuals, you know someone else's perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would encourage you to do this, even if it's not your comfort zone.
So
Yeah.
can I just quickly summarize what I've got so far so that you can tell me if I'm wrong?
Yes.
You're saying that the first step is to figure out the world through ideally through visual means, as you've explained. The world, like for example, yours was Arabia. Yeah, and then that would also include things like cultural context and religious context if necessary.
So no, wait. So race and religion and culture comes into the next step, but you can start exploring that. Like, I know that when I lock onto a location like Arabia, which already exists in my reality, I know that there is already a cultural context that I need to explore now. Because Arabia exists, I can't recreate Arabia.
Okay. But isn't my existing idea of Arabia also coming from the cultural ideas I have of it?
Yes.
Or like things that I've seen as rep, because I haven't been there. Right? Like, so my idea of that place possibly just comes from the representation that I've seen.
Yes.
And now that could be anything. That could be cultural.
Right.
That could be,
Right.
or even just, I mean, I could just think about oil when I think of it. It's very sort of subjective, which is why I asked this, that in the first step.
Which is why our first step was not the setting. Our first step was the impulse.
Okay.
The impulse drove you to identify Arabia.
Okay. All right.
Right. And then that impulse, you tested that impulse by answering the two questions about the culture you interact with and why you're writing.
Okay. All right.
And then you decided to go ahead and now you're creating setting.
Yeah. So you said first world and then locations is what you set up.
Yes.
And that's where you gave the example of the cafes.
Yes.
So, which would then induce the mood for the setting.
Yes. So your world comes with, when you create this, the scene for the larger world, okay, that's where you start identifying what it is that is making you set it in that world. Like, for example, sometimes it's just set in Delhi. Okay. And Delhi is a great city. It has a lot of history. It also has a lot of ugly buildings and it has a lot of mahallas, right? Where is your story? What mood? What does your story require? Does it require it to be set in the historical locations? Does it require it to be set in Connaught Place, which is, according to me, god awful? Does it require it to be set in those really narrow lanes like those in the movies, right? Or does it go across these places? Each of these places has a mood. Each of these places has a presence. And it is, for you as a writer planning your work, you need to be aware of this. Right? Like another, just as, when you have a circle and that line hits it, what is it called?
Tangent?
Yes. Another tangential point is, thank you, is that there are two approaches to writing, generally. One is discovery and one is planning. Okay. Someone like George R.R. Martin claims to be only a discovery writer. So he sits in front of his laptop and he types till the story comes out, which is why his story got stuck and is still stuck. Right? Like the series got completed, his books never did. I don't know if you all are aware of what I'm talking about. A Song of Ice and Fire. Yes. Yeah. Right? There are other writers who, like, my discovery happens during the planning process. And since I am conducting this workshop, you all are stuck with my method. Okay. Stop complaining now. Okay, cool. Take care.
I have a question.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation with me, where I know the emotions that I want the reader to experience, but I don't necessarily. So like I'm afraid to take that first step to like decide, okay, this is going to be set in the present day, or okay, this is going to be set in an alternative world, or it's going to be set in the past, or it's going to be set in this culture or that culture, because I don't know which one is the best one to tell and evoke those emotions. So how do you start? Because if you were to start with discovery, you would first have to fix something and then see where that takes you, right? So assume we're going to put ourselves into, let's say, let's use the mood board you have. Then naturally that would evoke certain kinds of personas that you feel will exist there, maybe certain kinds of governments and politics and themes that are attributed to that place. But then like to make that first step to decide what is that location, how do you do that?
So I'm going to go back to the first thing that we did. You start with the impulse, right? Like a lot of the way you're describing what you want to talk about is coming from the outward in. Like, you know what effect you want to have, what effect you want the story to have, but not what the story is.
Yeah.
I'm saying let that go, okay, and start writing. That writing, like literally do this, put yourself on a timer and start writing, right? And that will give you a basis to start off of. And also do that several times, right? Like spend some, I would recommend that you spend some time thinking, like for the example of, since you are talking about, you know what you want the audience to feel. So if it's anger, assume, okay? So let's think about anger. For you, look at maybe watch a piece of work that makes you angry, okay? And then start your impulsive writing. Okay. And what an impulsive writing does is that it helps you identify what's inside you, what's wanting to be told. And then from that, you can use that as a basis to, okay, now, for example, I'll carry this anger example through. So I watch something that makes me angry, which is perhaps one of those comedy shows that makes fun of people, right? I will watch it, I will get angry, and I will write. In 5 minutes, I will probably come up with a scene where there is a teenage person who is angry, but is also small-bodied and weak, so can't physically express that anger, so ends up hurting themselves, self-harm. That's what I've written in my impulse. Let's imagine that. So now you've got something, you've got a character, you've got a location. You may not get everything. You've got something. That's your point of start. That something allows you to build more. Without that something, you can't start building. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and you could try that, and I'm okay with my email ID being shared, and you can try that. And if you want to kind of dig deeper into that and build a process, because one of the things I also do in life is mentor writers. So we will do that. I would love to do that.
Thank you. Thank you for the offer. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So the next, we have a hard stop at 3 or 3:30. Sneha?
3:30.
3:30. Oh no, I have to go on for half an hour. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is character, right? So if there are any questions about setting, you can put them down, or we can or put them in chat and we can address them in the end. But we are moving on to character. All good with that? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay then. Okay, I will have you. Can you see my screen? Am I sharing it? Can you read what's on the screen?
You're sharing your screen, but you're not able to read it.
Ah, okay.
There's a giant black blob in the middle.
You all have a giant black
Center
blob.
right.
Yeah.
Center right. No.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Can y'all read it now?
There's still the toolbar is still blocking the first line of the.
Yeah, this is not a black blob, but still a
Yes.
blob.
Yes, perfect.
Yes. Okay. Oh, no. Woo. Huh. Yes. So you all can ponder this further when we do the thing. Now we can discuss stuff now. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No. So I have to do the escape. Escape. Yes. I'm going to stop sharing. Yes, that's just simpler. Thanks. Just Sneha just puts up my email ID on a public forum, but no, I don't mind. 1 second, 1 second. Some noises. Yes, I have locked myself in a soundproof room now. No. Character, right? So once you figure out your and again, when you start this process of creating setting, you don't need to have A to Z answers. You need to have ABC perhaps. Okay. And you start thinking about the people living in this world, not the person, the people. Okay. Because very often the culture is, most people will create monocultural stuff because that is what they are aware of. Also because most of us who read in English read mainly white male writers who create only white male words, including Tolkien. Okay. And very often it just becomes a question of, but didn't you just look outside the window? Like I work with a lot of people who are working on gaming story worlds, and gaming story worlds cultures are now becoming more and more important because diverse gaming is a thing now, right? And a lot of them will say, you ask them like, okay, so where is this set? And who are the people? Yeah, it's set in any normal city. The people are normal people. What mean that, child? What mean? So think about the cultures inhabiting your space. For example, if it's an urban setting, even in Asia, urban settings are multicultural and multi-ethnic, right? And go down to it, call it what it is, right? Don't try to be politically correct when you're doing this for yourself. Don't try to say it's multiracial. No, say that there are Black people and Mexican people and Japanese people and Korean people. Say it. Okay, all right. And the lovely thing about using visuals again is that you get to just stick pictures there if you don't want to say it, right? Because when you're thinking of the pictures, you are also thinking about what they wear, what they eat, what they look like. So you don't have a story set in Phnom Penh in Cambodia that has people slurping. Well, they actually would be slurping lattes because they've been colonization. Okay, but the point is you will be aware of that. And you'll be aware of what you don't know. You're allowed to be aware of the fact that you're shallow and your history hasn't taught you anything. Okay, you're allowed to. The reason I mentioned Cambodia is because I read a story that was set there, and it was a story which didn't focus on the history and this. It focused on a very contemporary issue that I didn't know Cambodia had, which is apparently acid attacks, right? And it took me reading that story to understand that. But the person writing that story spoke to the person who was the character in the story and represented their story. So that's how they found out, right? So this is the process of discovery. So you're not populating your world with just your characters, you're populating it with a culture. And that culture you need to research, even if you're inventing it from scratch. Right? Like just yesterday we were talking about, there's this white man called Brandon Sanderson who created a world called Roshar. And he's greatly influenced by Asian writing, right? And in one of the things in Roshar is that the hand, you can't show your hand, right? Women can't show their hand. It's considered a very shameful thing to show your left hand, right? Like exposing your left hand would be like exposing your breast, right? That's the cultural connotation there. The point is, if you're not going to go into the nuance or the cultural history of niqab and masking and hiding with clothing or shame attached to certain body parts, you're not going to be able to represent that hand being a shameful thing accurately in your book. He doesn't need to talk about this entire cultural history, but as a writer, he needs to research it. Makes sense? Yeah, I'm going to use the nodding and as encouragement. It makes sense. Yes. Oh, yeah. Like we're all like listening to metal music or something. Okay. So again, just like with the world, you first did the world and then you did a specific location. Same with character, do the population culture, then come down to characters. Right? And remember, this is all coming out of your impulse. So the impulse must have a germ of something. And don't worry about it. It will. I have never come across impulsive writing that didn't have a germ of a location, a character, and a situation. Yes, Divya, go.
So what if my impulse takes me to something else, not a setting first? Because per your instruction, saying, I mean, I know that nothing is hard thing, but yeah, I mean, if the setting doesn't come to me first, let's say my impulse drives me to a character, because more often than not, when I'm watching something, I relate to the characters. I'm one of those people. Like when I watch shows, particularly, I'm a very like character-driven person. I'm not that much about the storyline even, but the characters. So what if a character gives me an impulse to write something? Then what do I do? Do I start with character or what do I do?
Go back to your impulse. See what you've written. I would like to bet with you saying that that character cannot exist in a vacuum. That character must be somewhere, which is a physical location.
I mean, I think because when I think about characters and character arcs, I'm often just thinking about the person standalone, and the setting comes afterwards. I'm saying what if the first
that's fine.
is the character?
That's fine. See, when you are doing setting and character, these exercises that I'm describing, you're doing planning work, which means that you have now taken a step back and you're looking at the big picture. You're creating things from scratch, right? Again, I'm coming back to you. If the character is something that you've put down, okay, the character is doing something, the character is existing, they have to exist somewhere. Okay, you may not have described it or written it in your impulse, but you can think about it now after moving away from the impulse, which is why we get the impulse out of the way. The impulse is interrupting us from doing all of this. So get it out of the way and now examine it. Okay, characters sitting and crying. That's what you've written in your impulse. Now figure out where they are crying. Ken, do you have a question?
Got it.
You had your hand up. Sorry.
Oh no! I was just blowing on my hand. But
okay.
I guess I do resonate with what Divya is saying, because I also am very attracted to characters. So like when I think of characters like, let's say Indiana Jones, I watch the movies because I like Indiana Jones the character. I don't watch the movies because of now he's in Egypt, so I want to watch that movie, but I don't want to watch the one that's in the Amazon jungle. Like I'm not interested. That never occurs to me. I want to watch it because I like the character. Yeah. So I wonder in those cases, what is the storytelling reasoning or rationale behind choosing, oh, where is the next Indiana Jones movie going to be set? Or where is the next Lara Croft movie going to be set? Because it sounds like the character comes first before the setting in those cases.
Yes, it could. For me, the process goes from world to character, but very often these two will go hand in hand. Very often the character will come first. It's totally cool to build out a character who's a archaeological explorer, which both Indiana Jones and Lara Croft are. And then that can drive the locations that they visit. Right? Because I will not have archaeological stories set in Empire State Building. I mean, they could be, but they'd still have to engage with that archaeological part of themselves. So yes. So the world building and characters, like I said, for me, it goes this way, right? Also, I realize now that I'm saying it is also because my impulses tend to have very well thought out characters for some reason. So for me, that I have done, that work has already happened before I hit the setting. So I guess there's no set rule that says go from world to character. These are tools to do the three things that we need to do.
Also, so because when I was thinking of character, I'm not just thinking of things like profession, right? I'm thinking of attributes. Like, for example, if I am neurodivergent, which is the most pressing thing in my life. Like whenever I do something, I'm thinking about my neurodivergence. So then let's say I'm watching something or doing something that impulses me into writing about a neurodivergent character. Amazing. But this is what will happen. All those little neurodivergent things that make this person what they are and how they are evolving into, let's say, another person with time. These are things that strike me. It never mind what they do for a living or where they stay or how many partners they have or how many friends they have in life.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, just generally the things that they do, the things that make that.
Right. I don't. Thank you, Saskia. Thank you. It was great having you. I don't see why that should stop you from engaging in this process. Like profession is just one of the things that we discussed. Yes, neurodivergence is something. And again, like I said, I think it's also because you get better at things with practice, right? I've been practicing writing a long time. Right. So for me, the neurodivergence is there. I don't even need to think about it because it is me. I cannot relate to normal world. Right. So my characters, it's highly unlikely that they will be normal. And I feel no desire to go research normalcy to make my characters appear normal. So own it. Yes. Everything that you're doing is right. And it is awesome. Okay. So I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to say. There are a few more. I can show you the. Do you guys want to see the mood boards for characters, or will you all see that on your own time? Yes. Okay. This blob. Go away, blob. Yes. So this is for a character that is. Oh, I was talking about the world that I was building, and this is the character from the Japan side. And for this, I used a lot of real life trans characters as reference, right, for the visual aesthetic of it. And yeah. And then for the Arabian side, there is a whole plethora of characters that I sourced, which also gives me insight into the visuals of it, and the clothing and the aesthetic of it. Because one thing I'm really bad at describing is just the way characters look, and just having this allows me to. So as long as I know that this is how they look, I don't need to describe it. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay, this is conflict, and I don't think we have the time to get into this, but it's there, and there are questions for you to look at when you are working on this. But I do feel that if you handle the first two, conflict becomes self-evident.
Conflicting conflicts are the best conflicts. Amazing.
Yes, I think I was not on anything when I wrote this. I was just being me. But yeah, so because in the interest of time, I won't get into this because this is a massive conversation. We need a part 2 of this workshop to make that happen. But yeah, and this is a recap of what we did. Yeah, but one of the things I say is that when you're writing the first impulse, you need to shut down your inner judge. So, and there is this whole study that says aces don't like drinking, but like drunk doesn't mean drink alcohol. Drunk just means shut down the critic. Do what it needs to, like go for a run and write while running. Yeah, and
Can you show us a demo
of running?
Writing while running?
Oh, I used to do that all the time. I won't, I mean, maybe I'll, no, Pragati, stop putting me on the spot. You're just baiting me.
I thought Pragati meant the drunk demo, but okay. I will not say anything.
Divya, what makes you assume you're not in the demo right now?
Also, can we use this for academic writing? Because I struggle with that also.
Yes, I think
Serious
so.
writing, right? Like non-fictional writing. Maybe can I use, please? I need help.
I'm gonna stop sharing, so I come back to this. The academic writing that I do also happens to become story-like because I'm not an academic by thingy. Academic writing is hell. So so I make a lot of my academic writing also story-like, and I know a friend of mine who writes her papers, her dissertations as scripts. So there's characters speaking to each other. I know that the last thing that I wrote academically was again a series of questions and answers by different characters who were part of the study. And it wasn't just a reported piece of a question, this is the question and this is the answer, but it was literally what they call personal stories or personal histories, which became the answer to the question. And that's a dramatic tool. Personal histories are a dramatic tool and a story collection tool. So, and I know that the academic world, as whatever it is, we shall not use words, has become more accepting of these forms of submission. So, I mean, I'm not encouraging you to mess around with your dissertations, but I am encouraging you to mess around with your dissertation.
Please encourage. Thank you. And send more examples of this, because this is my quest in life. I want to move away from rigid writing and move into more. I think one of the reasons I haven't gotten into academia that far yet is because of this. If you can give me more examples of this, I'd happily jump in.
My college used to encourage like different kinds of writings. Like it was one of the saving graces while I was there. It's Manipal Center for Humanities. We have a blog. Like
Don't let anyone tell you how to write. Like even me, even though that's what the purpose of this workshop was. No, you write what comes. And you will figure it out. See, write what comes, go with your instinct. Then the planning and the structures can come in. Right? Like the purpose of knowing rules is knowing how to break them. That's the only purpose. So yes, I am done with my raving and ranting for the day. We are good to take questions, queries, or just thoughts or criticisms, or just if someone wants to put on their screen and yell for a minute, that's also fine. Like just go, ah. This is a safe space.
You realize this is being telecast live on YouTube.
Yes, well,
Okay, no, not to say it's not.
2. Yes, Neha, go for it.
So my question is related to when you have written the impulse and you're happy with the people, the culture, the location, everything is set, everything is written, right? And then you are writing the first draft, and then you go back to the first draft, right? After writing it out, you give it some time, you go back to it, and then you read it, and then you start having newer ideas, and the entire first draft then changes. And what you started out with is completely now different. So what am I doing that is what is it that I should be doing, or what should I do? Should I start out with impulses at different points in time to have these newer ideas all put together, or what should I do?
So first point first. This cultural belief that writing has to be goal oriented towards completion is BS. Okay. This whole linear process of you must write something that must then be published and then be reviewed and appreciated is bullshit. Stop listening to it. Okay. All right. So that's one point. The second point is you decide what your writing goal is. Is your writing goal completion? Is your writing goal perfection, which is a stupid goal to have, but you can have it if it's your goal? Is it putting fan fiction on archive of our own? It is putting up a blog? Is it just sharing it within this group of 10 people who came for a writing workshop in the middle of nowhere? Sure, decide what your goal is. Don't let the world decide for you. Okay? There is no. Just so it's also a sour point with me. So I can go on about this. The second thing is there is also a practice within the field of creation, and it's got numerous words, but the term I love the most is called killing your darlings. Okay, which means that there is something you really love and you really want it in there, and it's so cool and it's so nice and it's so okay, but it doesn't work. Kill it. Okay. And the third thing, and this is the most important thing, I'm assuming I said 3 things and this is the third, have someone to work with. Again, this belief that writing is a solitary process with one person sitting and writing, it's a very colonial idea. The imagery of that solitary writer is always a white person, possibly wearing a sun hat and sitting in a veranda while the natives blow palm fronds against them. Right? Chuck that idea. Where did it come from? See, I didn't say it. But the point is, have someone to work with, right? I always end group sessions with this is your community, right? You all shared your email IDs, which people can see on YouTube now for the record. No, they can't. Okay, fine. But the point is, you all have shared your email IDs. Commit to working together then, right? And it doesn't even need to be a full-on I am committed to you and you will get married on the 4th of July. It's basically just a space where you can send your ideas out. You are allowed to ask for feedback, and you have an obligation to be kind when giving that feedback. You don't have an obligation to be accurate, right? And that's why we are here. That's why we do this as a group. That's why we are attending writing workshops. This is not a solitary process. Don't let yourself be shunted into aloneness and the fact that you have to figure this out on your own. Yes. That answer given. Next question.
How nervous are you on a scale of
I have a bottle in my hand. It's a water bottle. I'm not.
If you say so, Hina.
By the way, Pragati is like that big boss bot, right? Who you can't see, but is occasionally saying things.
Yes. And she's also saying them in that tone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's why I said it. You can see everything.
Big Boss chahte hain.
Lovely.
What's funny is that me and my roommate used to put water in old alcohol bottles and totally like confuse all our house guests, and it was the like best harmless prank we did.
Honest, I'm not nervous. I'm excited, and I want more, and I think the excitement I think what's happening in the sense of this need for validation is also, we are not in a shared space. I can't see body language and cues. I know that I have a Divya relates to that perhaps, a neuroatypical need to be responded to because I can't read cues. So that's what's getting this. And also I've had a lot of coffee, like a lot. Okay, like since morning. So yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
I understand this because I used to be an online teacher and I had to stop being an online teacher because I was like, what is this? I can't see any of my students. All of you could be making faces at me for the way I'm talking right now. How do I know? So no, I just gave that up.
Why do you think my camera is off?
Yeah, this is what I'm expecting. This is what I'm used to with Pragati, right? I don't know what.
I am thanking the 6-7 of you who have kept your cameras on. You all are a blessing, and you all will receive great rewards tomorrow.
I'm assuming this is going to be my next plot or my next character or setting or something will come to me.
Yes, like everything is usable. Use everything. Yeah. We have 4 more minutes and people can continue asking questions. Community need, yes.
Or we can also quickly mention about the evening sessions that are happening today.
That much better use of time.
Okay, so in the evening, we are going to start at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And it's going to be, first we're going to have a keynote address by Harish Iyer, who has been at the forefront of the queer movement in India. He's going to be giving us his speech on Pragati. If I'm not wrong, can I have you check up on
Yeah,
this?
it's going to be more conversational between me and him. We're going to be talking about how to place New Age activism in its historical context and what's lacking and what needs to be done. And then at 7, Sneha.
And at 7, we have Miss Versus from Philippines performing, and it's going to be a music night. She's going to be performing 2 to 3 songs, and we're going to be conversing with her what her life in the city is going to be like. Like, what is it? How did she get into music? How does she use music to